All right, so let's bring her on, Stephanie McMahon, who has been involved with WWE since she was just a wee little thing. Great. Isn't that like incredible to just watch that and understand?
So I can take full credit for all of that success. It's
right,
all because
right. It had nothing to do with the other generations that preceded you.
Certainly not. Certainly not all the hard work of absolutely everybody else in our company.
Yeah, four generations.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Started in the 50s.
It did.
And you grew up in this world of superstars and almost mythical people and giants. What was that like?
I did. Well, before I answer that, let me just say, Hannah, how grateful I am to be here today with you in particular, with everyone here in this audience. I think that I could actually interview Hannah. In fact, all of the moderators really have their own incredible stories to tell. So I do think that it's a round of applause for you and all of your accomplishments. Author, filmmaker, runs and owns her own production studio, has her own foundation. I mean, I know I'm spinning it.
Okay, yeah, you totally turned the tables on me. But you know what? I think that's what it's about. We're here to lift each other up.
That's right.
And you know, put our arms around each other and inspire each other. And
that's
so
right.
To that effect, I think the fact, not only what you've done with WWE in terms of the women's revolution and bringing these incredible stories of these strong women to the forefront, but within your own sphere, being a woman, such a powerful woman in this industry, and having to do it within the scope of working with your family.
Yes.
So your work is your family. And what many don't realize, and they know your mother, Linda, was that she was actually the CEO of this company for years when you were growing up.
That's right. And so, you know, I was actually quoted recently by ESPN because I never saw gender as a barrier. But I think that it's so important for us to have those roles as women. I just grew up with my mom as the CEO of a company, so I had never assumed women could be anything but CEO. And it's very interesting, too. Actually, I was talking to another executive in the industry. She's one of the few female CEOs in this particular industry, and she was at a board meeting of 24 men and herself. She's the only woman. And they were talking about gender equality and how they were going to bring equality to their organizations. And it was about 5 or 6 minutes in, and finally she said, hey guys, does anybody want to ask me? None of the men in the room had even thought about asking her. And it was such a shock to the men themselves that they didn't think of it. It was really this aha moment, like, wow, she's sitting right here. How could we not have even thought to have asked her? So it was a very pivotal moment, but she had to use her voice that way. She has to be that woman in the room. We all have to be that woman. And it might be a job that we didn't sign up for. We may have thought that we needed to do that, but we got to set the example. And I'm just so proud, again, of ESPN for giving us this platform to do just that.
I mean, you had this, you know, an incredible role model, but you've gone on to perform in the ring and be this huge business person with a massive job like we just saw. But when you were small and you were watching your parents go literally from bankruptcy to billionaires, I mean, it was this incredible journey that you went on. Did you see yourself in one or the other of those roles? Because you have both in and out of the ring.
I never saw myself in the ring. Again, I think maybe there just wasn't that example back then. There were some, but it certainly wasn't as prominent.
Men. Right.
It was majority men. And I always saw myself working for the family business. I just didn't know how.
Right.
You know, but I was willing to do anything and everything, and for the most part, I did.
Right, you started off modeling for the catalog when you were like 8 or 9, right?
Please
You're modeling
do not
T-shirts.
We
did not.
They are bad.
No, come on.
Really bad. No, they're
no.
bad.
And then I know you interned in literally every department
Pretty
there.
much.
But catch us up on that journey because you've done pretty much everything, right? Writing, directing.
I have.
Performing, all of it.
So, you know, interning all throughout school and in high school, working, you know, after school and during the summers. But really after college, I started off as an account executive in our sales office. And at that same time, which really is a fancy title for, you know, nothing. I went on all of these different sales calls, and I was actually way too passionate about our business at the time because I'd go in and there would be all these, you know, naysayers and they media buyers, these young people who were my age making these big decisions, and they just wouldn't even give you the time of day sometimes, and I would get way too passionate about it, so that was not for me. You have to have a whole different level of patience. But so then I became a talent at that same time, right around that same time. And what I fell in love with was the creative. And I did have a unique internship with my mom, the CEO, fresh out of college. I spent 3 months in her office where I had the chance, and I know this is a privilege, and I don't think anyone else that I know of has had this opportunity, but to just ask questions. Right. You know, and listen into all of these meetings, and why did you do this, and why did you do that, and read through contracts, and just absorb as much as I could. And then I spent 6 months with my father, who's the chairman and the head of all of our, and now the CEO and head of all of our
And what
creative.
do you call him at work?
He's Vince at work.
He's Vince.
And there is Vince at work, and he is Dad at home, and thank God they are both. But then, you know, I just fell in love with the creative and the storytelling, because that is the most crucial piece, and I think the most basic form of communication. So then it became, you know what, maybe sales isn't for you. So you're going to go into the writing team, and you're going to be one of the writers, you know, for a little while. And if you prove yourself and you learn, then maybe one day you'll take over the writing team.
Oh, goodness gracious.
So 2 weeks into it, the head writer quit, and I wound up taking over the writing team and growing it from 2 people to...
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thank you guys very much.
Okay.
Well, you gotta have a little highlight.
I know,
Use
right?
WWE on stage.
Gosh,
There's
you
gotta
come.
be something
I
to
know.
talk about.
Like you come on stage and like things are falling,
Right?
And, you know,
Right?
knocking things over. And,
Yeah, actually, John Cena did that. He's about to burst.
Yeah,
through.
right. Do you like, in terms of your sort of persona in that regard? Do you like being the villain?
I love being the villain.
You do.
Yeah. And but just to go back for a second, because I don't want to lose where you and I had talked about before. So, in terms of the creative writing team, ultimately, then I went on to be the first woman, and this is why I think it's relevant, to run our live events, booking and marketing, our talent development, our talent relations departments, and the first woman to run our digital department as well, which is when we launched social media and the WWE app right before their OTT service, the WWE Network.
You were so many things to talk to you about, but you were so at the forefront of that WWE in terms of streaming your content. And I know you've said that you're platform agnostic.
Yes.
At WWE, but we saw those amazing numbers, you know, and even when you look at the individuals, the performers, and their numbers are off the charts. In terms of their social media followers. Can you just walk us through how you, because you produce all this content yourselves, but how you get it out there and why you were so far ahead of the curve in that regard?
Sure. So we produce 1,500 hours of content per year, and we leverage a content ecosystem with 6 billion hours viewed last year alone.
Wow.
Around the world. We're a global
Amazing.
brand. So we have this whole content ecosystem, and we believe that one piece of the ecosystem doesn't work without the other. So there's traditional linear, which we do still believe in. It still reaches, you know, so many people, and we have our partnership here in the States with USA Network and NBCU. We also have partnerships with ESPN, where there's an upcoming Ric Flair 30 for 30. There was a 30 for 30 on the XFL. There was an E60 on the Performance Center. We also have a partnership with HBO Sports, which is going to be doing a documentary on Andre the Giant. Or E, where we have our reality shows, Total Divas and Total Bellas. So there's linear, then there's AVOD, right, which is basically digital and social. And that's crucial because not only are there short form clip reels of your content, but you have to produce original content for those platforms. Repurposing content is not enough. You need to reach people where they're engaging, how they want to be engaged. And there we do have original shows like Superstar Inc., which is a show about our superstars and their tattoos and the meaning behind their tattoos, which is always...
Because that's so personal,
it
right?
is.
Like I love that concept.
Absolutely.
Right? That's a good way to get to know somebody.
Yeah.
Right.
And but then our stars also, they engage, and they're businessmen and women, you know, the same way a lot of athletes are, right? Because they recognize the more popular their own individual brand is, the more meaningful they are to the team or the franchise or to the WWE, to the business. And John Cena is the #1 most active American athlete on Facebook. We currently are the second most viewed YouTube channel in the world.
In the world.
In the world.
Right.
Which even like when I saw that stat, I didn't believe it. I had to.
Wow.
Can you please verify this statistic? We're behind a Bollywood channel and ahead of PewDiePie. But seriously.
Do you have any idea what percentage of your fans are from outside the U.S.?
Yeah, so it's very interesting because 70% of viewership takes place outside of the U.S., but only 30% of the revenue. So there's a huge growth opportunity there that we're trying to capitalize on.
A couple of things that I've heard you say and that I've read about you, and one of them is in regards to social media, that your philosophy is that you don't just push out your content, you're not just pushing out messages, you're not just promoting, but you are very seriously listening to your fans, and that has actually impacted the way you've done business, and in particular with the Divas.
Yes.
Can you walk us through that
Absolutely.
story? Yeah.
So I do believe that one of the reasons we've had such success in social media is because we recognize that our fans are a part of our show, right? They give us constant real-time feedback, whether that's focus groups live in the arena, and I'm using that as a euphemism. We're not actually doing focus groups in the arenas. They are focus groups in and of themselves, or it is digital and social media, or it is merch sales, etc. But our fans give us that feedback, and they know they are a part of our story, and they influence what happens in the ring and what we do. And the best example of that is when it comes to our women's division. So we had branded our women's division about 8-9 years ago, the Divas division, in an effort to give our women a spotlight. But that was before divas seemed to be a negative term. It was Whitney Houston and Aretha Franklin, the divas of soul, right? It was very positive. But we needed to evolve, and ultimately it did result in total Bellas and total divas, so it was a positive story. But what shifted was how we were training and portraying our women in our developmental system. So and that's actually my now husband's job, and this, I could talk to you guys forever, but life imitated art. I am married to Triple H. We were married and divorced on television, then we got married in real life. We have 3 daughters, 11, 9, and 7.
Right.
He has now made the transition into the company and is now running a multitude of departments, among them talent development and the creation of our whole performance center. He started recruiting elite athletes, men and women, from all over the world. And he started training the women the same way that the men were being trained.
Because it used to be, when you were talking about bringing women in, they were models.
Yes,
you were looking
a
at
lot of
models
times.
a lot of
It was
times.
looks a lot of times.
Some cheerleaders.
And not that they weren't athletes.
Right.
But it was looks first. And it was.
And now
it was
that
a
mentality has
perception.
changed.
Yep. And I think it was a misperception, in our business of what our audience wanted. Well, our audience told us. So what happened was, in our developmental system, where their matches were longer, their storylines were better, their character development was better. As women often do, they were stealing the show to the point where our audience started chanting, "This is wrestling," and women's wrestling. And that transitioned to the main roster, where we had our Still Divas division, a tag match. 4 women in the ring competed for 30 seconds, and that was not uncommon. And it started this hashtag.
People wanted more.
Give Divas a chance, and it trended worldwide for 3 days.
Wow.
3 days. Men and women in our audience demanding more from the way we were portraying women. It was so loud and so strong that our chairman and CEO, yes, my father, responded, "We hear you, keep watching, hashtag give Divas a chance." And from there, in our biggest stage, which is WrestleMania, we had WWE Hall of Famer Lita come out and in the biggest way possible announced the rebranding of the Divas division to the women's division. She unveiled the new championship belt that was a butterfly to being something more akin to the men's championship belt, but still feminine. And she announced that our women were now going to be called superstars, same as the men. And since that time, our women have been regularly main eventing our television programming and pay-per-view events. We
That's
still got a
incredible.
long way to go.
Yes.
But they are absolutely
That's
taking
fantastic.
over.
I love it.
amazing.
And that comes from listening.
Yes, and
That comes from
engaging, yes,
listening.
and
Listening and
responding.
engaging. Yeah.
Right?
And then changing your strategy.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then our fans also at NXT, for example, which I had said really started as our developmental league and is now our 3rd global touring brand, they are deciding with their voices who is going to make it to the main roster. And they know it. So they're invested in these superstars from the very beginning, and then that only continues to grow as they become bigger and bigger stars. And I think engagement is such a key part of why WWE has this incredible reach and success.
And yet, with all this reach and success, I imagine you regularly come across people who really don't understand what WWE is. What's the biggest misconception that you find?
It's changed. I think that, before maybe 10, 15 years ago, the misconception was that, oh yeah, that's like barroom kind of, that's unseeming form of entertainment. Then I think the misperception came about 10 years ago with the Attitude Era, right? Where we were
Explain the Attitude Era a little, because you were competing with Turner.
We were,
and that whole
we were actually about to lose our
wrestling
business
Yeah.
because Ted Turner had just, quite frankly, deeper pockets at that time. And my parents really grew our business from a regional territory into the global phenomenon that it is today. But
Started in your house, right?
Yep. They had a desk across from each other, and my mom had to decide whether or not to actually purchase the $12 a month typewriter that she had been renting. So they really did. They started from the ground up, and they learned along the way. And one of the things they learned is the importance of contracts, because Turner was able to hire away a lot of our top talent. We didn't have contracts with them. It was a handshake deal. So we lost a number of our biggest stars, and we couldn't go live every week. We just couldn't afford it. And Turner was, and they went head to head with us with the brand called WCW at Monday Night Nitro. And now we have a show on it on the WWE Network, because we won, by the way.
Yes, you did.
We won.
In a big way. Right.
But again, we were trying to be competitive. So, we actually, just like my parents mortgaged everything they owned to make WrestleMania 1 a success, they had to sell off a number of different personal items to invest in making WWE a success again. So we could go live, and we could go head to head. And the Attitude Era was one of those survival mechanisms. And it was, relevant at the time. It was, the Howard Stern Show and NYPD Blue and all of that. Like, it was the marketplace then.
Right.
And
it worked.
Yeah, and we strategically changed that and went back to family entertainment. We're rated PG now by our network partners, and have been for about 10 years now.
So that's something that you have to overcome. But I know the drum that you always beat is storytelling.
Yes.
That is literally at
That's
the
how
heart
we
of
won in the
everything
end.
that you do. Yes.
Yep. Because storytelling, look, WWE is no different than a great book, a great movie, an opera, a ballet. It's protagonist versus antagonist with conflict resolution. The only difference is that our conflict resolution happens inside a 20 by 20 foot ring with some of the greatest live action that you can see on any form of media. 52 weeks a year, no off season, no rerun.
Yeah, 52 weeks a year. Think
Yes.
about that.
Yes.
Right?
But it is storytelling, and you need to give people a reason to care, whether it's your story, right? Why should I care about whether or not somebody wins or loses? You need to be able to relate to them. Why should I be, as a brand, why should consumers choose your brand over another, right? There's a proliferation of content out there right now. Why should people care about what you do more than the next person?
Why do they care about WWE?
I think because, A, we listen to them, right? We give them relatable content. They can see themselves. It's aspirational. It's inspirational. And we have over 200 different superstars, right? So there's all different points that you can relate to throughout our brand. We engage them where they are, when they are, however they want. And we really do listen. And I think also a brand is important to have purpose and value. I really do believe that, and I think it needs to be authentic. Our mission is to put smiles on people's faces the world over. That's it. Super simple. And you ask anybody in our company, from our stars to our employees, from C-level executives to even everybody working in the mailroom, and they will all tell you what our mission is. And if you can make someone smile throughout the day, I consider that a huge success. We do that whether it's through our content or by giving back to the community. And we actually have 4 key pillars to giving back: diversity and inclusion, hope, education, and military, supporting our servicemen and women and their families.
And you're wearing a bracelet for Connor's Cure.
Yes.
This is a little 8-year-old wrestling fan who lost his battle with cancer, and I know that he's actually in your Hall of Fame.
He is.
As well. But this is something that you and your husband, Paul, started. That's really near and dear to your heart.
And he is a fan, right?
Yeah.
And our audience relates to him, and we've been supporting Pediatric Cancer Awareness Month, and I'm sorry, I try not to get emotional.
You're getting
when I talk about Connor.
she's getting a little teary-eyed here. Yeah.
And I have bronchitis because I've been traveling too much, and I apologize. I'm on medication. I'm not contagious, Hannah. Yeah, he was this light like you can't imagine. And everybody who met Connor just absolutely fell in love with him. And my husband and I wanted to do something to ensure that no other child or their family suffered like Connor. And we brought him to WrestleMania. He loved Daniel Bryan, who is this superstar who was really the underdog, right? Again, it's all storylines. Ironically, my husband and I were the authority figures that he was fighting, which probably was some weird conflict in his mind, but he got over it. And we brought him to WrestleMania at the Superdome in New Orleans for WrestleMania 30, and the doctors said he'd never make it. They said he'll never survive. If he does, he won't be able to do very much. You know, they really advised against it. And Connor overcame the odds like he always did. And his dad said it was like he had his little boy back.
Oh.
And when Daniel Bryan won, ultimately overcame 8 months of storyline where he was being oppressed, and ultimately won the WWE Championship on his own, went out of the ring and went right over to Connor, who was in the front row, and he said, "You did this. You're the reason that I won this, and you keep fighting." And Connor lost his fight about 3 weeks after that. But we've now raised with V Foundation and Susan Braun's here, and with our partners at Children's Hospital of Pittsburgh Foundation, over $2 million. We've helped over 250 families with things like parking vouchers and food vouchers, because you just never really know
all the practical
what you're going to need. That's
right.
And then, so this year, for the campaign, we made this, you know, PSA, and we said, you know what, we don't want it to be sad. We want it to be hopeful. We want it to be inspiring. So we shot these 6 kids who are survivors, and they created their own WWE superstar personas. There was Lance the Tumornator. There was like Max the Green Machine. I mean, they were awesome. And when this PSA
really cool.
aired to our house, to the live event, that's what we call it, 10,000 people got on their feet and gave him a standing ovation. All of those kids a standing ovation. And they support Connor's Cure. I've run into people. I travel the world. I went to the airport in Dubai, and there was someone there wearing this bracelet, and made a point to come up to me. I mean, it's just...
That's the power.
It's the power. It's the
right?
power, but it's also the responsibility. You know, we reach so many people on a regular basis, on a weekly basis, and it is the responsibility to spread those messages that are so important. And there's so many important causes out there, and they're all worthy.
It has to come from the heart, though.
It does.
It has to be authentic, and even, you know, no matter how great or how small, you're going to affect a life, and it's incumbent upon all of us, the gifts that we've been given to.
That's right.
To affect, you know, people in great and small ways. And this is something that's important, I know, as a mother, that you are passing along to your 3 daughters.
Yes.
We heard a little bit about you growing up in this amazing household,
Yeah.
as are they. Both parents public figures and with massive jobs on the business side. How does all of that come together?
So it's challenging. My daughters are 11, 9, and 7. They are all forces of nature, and of course I want to be. I want to be the ultimate. I think all women are forces of nature, by the way, and I firmly believe. I believe in men too, but I believe in the power of women. You know, we have to harness it and believe in ourselves. And I believe that for my daughters, and I want to set that example, you know, the same way my parents did. People ask me all the time, do you want them to go into the family business? Because I have 2 requirements for them. Right. That they're happy, they do what they love, and that they work hard for it. That work ethic is so important because, you know, even for your self-worth, right? For your own value. To work hard and achieve goals, no matter how big or small, that is confidence building in and of itself, and is so important.
It's funny, you know, we don't talk about it, and whenever I have young people ask me for advice, that's the first thing I say is work hard.
Work hard.
No matter what it is,
right.
Work hard.
That's right. Work hard, go after it.
And you do, and I'm wondering how that plays out sometimes being a mom.
Tell this story. So
yeah,
this week
she told me a story
particularly hard. I've been, and this month has been a lot of travel.
You okay to tell it?
Yeah, I'm okay.
You okay to tell it? Okay.
So, my 11-year-old has been giving me a serious amount of attitude for the past 2 weeks, like more than usual. And I'm really struggling with it. And it was on my birthday, actually. She threw this fit for 3 hours. And she knows what she's doing. She doesn't do that at school. She can control that. And it was just this weekend where finally it came to a head, and she just looked at me and said, "Mommy, you've just been gone too much." And she started crying, and of course now I'm crying. And then I was cuddling my 7-year-old, and I was telling her, you know, Mommy's going to be away just for a few more days. I'm almost done this whole route. And then she started crying independently of my daughter, and I held her for 20 minutes. And my middle child, she saved it till this morning when I called home before they went to school. But it is hard. And it's, my mom taught me it's never 50-50, right? It's going to be 80-20. It's going to be 70-30, 90-10 at times. And I knew this was going to be a particularly rough month. And I managed their expectations, but they're kids. And I'm feeling it too, and that's part of the what makes it hard, and it is hard. And growth, growth is painful, but it's worth it at the end of the day. And you just have to make sure that you commit that time to them. So I've taken Friday off.
Yeah, I was going to say, how do you how do you try to balance
and then I
that
only
out?
have 2 more things that I have to travel for the rest of the year, and then I'm good. But this is a rough period, and you have to get through it and decide. You don't have to do it. You decide if that's what you want to do or not.
What the value is of the time.
What the priorities are, and there's a time to say no.
Yeah.
We were having that discussion too, and I have a hard time saying no.
Do you?
I do. Oh, absolutely, I do. I don't know why.
Why
I don't know
is
if
that?
that's a female
I
thing
don't
or a male
know.
thing, but I know that I have a hard time saying no. I'm a pleaser, I think. I'm a people pleaser, and I always want to deliver for my business and for my company because that's also my dad, right? And my mom has since resigned, and my husband and everybody else, and my kids. This is, supporting them for their future. So it's all wrapped up, and I think there's no clear message other than, it's not easy for anybody.
Yeah, and I think that's important to know.
It is.
It's important to
And
know
that
that
it's okay.
everybody, that we all struggle with the same things, right?
We're all human.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that I learned. I became an Eisenhower Fellow, and
congratulations.
Thank you.
Very cool.
And had the opportunity to really travel. I went to China and to Brazil, and the whole point is really this personal sort of sojourn, and ultimately with the goal of this fellowship, and of course doing everything you can to invest in the world to make it a better place. But what I learned is that we're all the same. We really are. No matter where you come from, our basic human needs are exactly the same. And if we can just fuel those needs and love each other a little more, support each other a little more, be there for each other a little more, instead of judging, instead of tearing each other down.
Which is like kind of the way things are now.
Unfortunately, there's a lot of that, but there is a lot of good too. And you have to take the negativity out of your life. It's something I learned a long time ago. Take the negativity out of your life, no matter who it is. If they make you feel not good about yourself, they shouldn't be a part of your inner circle. Just keep them out.
What about people who are outside of your inner circle? I mean, you get it. You hear all sorts of things. You're a public figure.
And a villain.
And a villain. So all sorts of crazy things that I'm sure you get on Twitter and Facebook and the rest.
Sometimes what people say is really nasty. And then
how do you compartmentalize that?
I
do you handle
do
it well?
my best to ignore it.
You do?
I do.
Yeah.
And it's funny, this maybe is a men/woman thing, because sometimes it does bother me, right? I'll be sitting next to my husband and I'm like, oh, God. Even coming here, there was ESPnW put out a quote, where I had said I never saw gender as an issue. And it was in relation to my mom being CEO. But it was just a quote with a picture. And there was this one comment, it was just one, on a lot of other comments, and it said, yeah, well, that's easy to say when you're the boss's daughter. And I was like, oh.
Right.
So, it just ripped me up. And my husband's like, why do you even care?
Right.
Why do you even read it? And it's a good question. Why do I care? Why do I read it? And I think it's just, I do value people's opinions, and I think you just have to sift it out and focus on the good, and don't focus on the negative. And in terms of your businesses, when you're taking social media feedback, focus on the themes, because there are bigger themes.
Is that what you tell when you talk to other business leaders?
Yes.
And they ask you your
Yes,
strategy
because a lot of
in that
people are trying to
regard?
figure it out.
Focus on the themes.
Yeah, focus on the bigger themes, because otherwise you can get mired down in so much detail. But you pull out from it and see what those bigger conversations are.
What do you think needs to happen as so many businesses are shifting? Obviously, with social media, with all the different platforms, everybody's trying to figure it out. I mean, businesses across the board are changing. It's almost impossible to keep up with. And the fact that you guys were sort of ahead of the curve in that regard. So when people ask you how to make these types of transitions on a business level, what advice do you give them?
So I think it's important to focus on storytelling. Right?
So it's back to that again.
Give people a reason to care about your brand.
Okay.
It is the content ecosystem, how you put out that messaging, where you put it out, the engagement, right? Maintaining relevance. You heard Bose earlier talk about the importance of pop culture.
Right.
And we have a whole pop culture strategy where we strategically bring in celebrities from outside, celebrity influencers, athletes.
Yeah, we
and
saw
then,
that in the sizzle,
and then
actually.
we also cast
Right.
our stars outside.
Right.
Right. And that's all to generate as much audience as we possibly can, generate that water cooler talk, and bring awareness. And the rising tide raises all boats for their audiences and ours.
So someone like a John Cena, for instance,
Yes.
who you referenced, you know, we're seeing him in movies, and we're seeing him, or we
Everywhere.
were seeing him on the
Yes.
third hour of the Today Show,
Yes.
and everywhere. That's a great symbiotic relationship for you, right?
It is.
Where you take,
Yeah, John Cena's phenomenal. He's just been an incredible brand ambassador. And by the way, he's out there telling our story too.
and his own.
And his
too,
own,
right?
yeah,
So
his
how
own
much do
personal
you
success.
allow your superstars to, you know, be their own brands, and how do you dovetail that within the larger scope of WWE?
It's a great question because our characters are never really out of character, right? Because
Yeah.
it is 52 weeks a year. We have 5 minutes left in total.
That went fast.
Yes, it did. But I think that it's just important. We encourage our stars to have their own voice and to be their own unique individuals, to build their brands. Because, again, for the same reason, the more people that are aware of WWE and what we do, hopefully the bigger our family gets.
Does anybody have a question for Stephanie? I'm sorry, this clock didn't, so I wanted to
can't
leave
even
time
see it,
for more
really.
questions. But does anybody have a question?
In our
before
5
she
minute
leaves?
countdown or 4 minute?
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah?
Okay.
Okay, yes. And there's your microphone.
Hey, Stephanie, I'm Sam, and I'm in brand marketing for ESPN. Thank you so much for the inspiration. We believe in storytelling as a competitive advantage, and would just love to understand a little bit more how you develop those authentic stories. How does the inspiration get started? Does it come from the talent, or does it come from a group of storytellers that are helping to influence that star?
All of the above. So it comes from absolutely everywhere. When you're producing 5 hours of live content, which is essentially 2 movies every single week, you need as many different points of influence as you can. Sometimes it comes from our talent. Sometimes it comes from our fans. Sometimes it comes from, yes, the team of writers that we do have. Or it comes from anywhere else in the company. You know, that's one of the key learnings from my father has always been to listen, right? Because you never know where a good idea is going to come from.
Anybody else? Yes.
Could you talk a little bit about your workouts? You're on Instagram quite a bit.
Okay, I asked for this video. Thank you, Sarita, because you heard Stephanie talk about how busy she is, right, with this huge job and the travel and the 3 kids. Tell everybody when you work out.
So I work out at midnight because it's after my kids go to bed, and I'm a bit of a night person anyway, and they're up so early that I'd have to be up at like 4, and I'm sitting in front of it. Can you guys even see?
I can't even believe that you do.
This is
the
a video
kinds of
that you're not
things
seeing.
You do at midnight. Yeah.
But I
it's
mean, to
crazy.
some of the athletes in the room, I'm sure that it won't look that amazing. But yeah, we train at midnight because that's the only time that
you
we
and
have.
your husband.
Yeah.
Right. So look at this. Yeah, at midnight. So what time do you go to look at this? How do you have energy to do this at midnight?
Well, I nap when I cuddle them.
Oh, okay.
They go to sleep and I take like a little 5-minute nap, and there's 3 of them, so it's it's 15 minutes. It gives you a little bit.
Gosh! And there you are with your husband.
Yeah, no, that's Joe DeFranco. He's our strength and conditioning coach.
Wait, so he shows up at midnight?
Yeah.
Oh wow!
Yeah, he gets through about 11. Yeah, we're dedicated. We're a team.
You are.
We are a
fierce.
team.
Oh my goodness! And what time do you go to sleep?
Late.
Okay.
You know, like around 1:30.
And what time do you wake up?
Yeah. Depends on, my middle child is my early riser.
Okay, she doesn't sleep.
She used to wake me up. So we had this conversation. I'll tell so fast. I do have fake eyelashes, right? And they're individual eyelash extensions,
awesome.
which I swear by I can get up and I don't have to put on makeup. I can run out the door. But she used to wake me up by pulling out my eyelashes.
Oh my goodness!
It was because she was 3 years old and she'd pull out my eyelashes.
Oh
Like, there's such a crazy way to wake up.
Oh my gosh! I don't know. That's like maybe that's like a wrestling thing.
I don't know.
Like,
I don't know.
right.
But that was
pull out mom's
that's an
eyelashes.
interesting sensation, I'll tell you.
You were so delightful.
Oh, thank
you're
you
such
so
an
much.
inspiration, I think, in so many ways. And thanks for being so honest and heartfelt and being here today. It was just a real pleasure to talk to you and spend time with you.
Hannah.
She's incredible.
Thank all of you.
And you guys are awesome audience. Awesome audience. So here comes the Sagemeister, as I like to call her, to
I've always wanted to ask you what that means, but Don't tell me.
No, no,
This
no.
is my
thing.
shirt.
I don't know.
It's
It's
your
just a
character.
nickname.
I need to
know.
get into character more often.
do.
Oh,
yes.
you
What are you
would.
doing later?
Yeah.
Well, we'll get together.
Yeah.
We'll
None
get
of those
together.
like workouts at midnight.
Why not?
No.
You're already dressed.
Yeah, and I already did that.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, all right, that's fair. That's
But
fair.
to work out with Stephanie McMahon would be kind of amazing. Would you do,
Yeah.
you do it with me? Yes?
A midnight workout?
Hannah's like, no.
Yeah, sure.
It doesn't
yeah.
have to be
Yeah,
midnight.
yeah.
Yeah.
could
That
be
was fun.
anytime.
Actually, I would do it.
All
But
right.
no
Yeah.
video cameras allowed.
Let's do
Okay,
it.
okay,
Yeah,
okay.
good.
Thank
You're
you.
on.
And by the
You're
way,
on.
how cool. Thank you, Hannah. When's the last time that you heard, any of you heard, that a company, I wrote this down, a company's sole primary mission is to
Yeah.
make people smile around the world.
Isn't that cool?
How refreshing.
Yeah.
I've never heard that.
Yeah.
That's awesome to be able to make that your mission and then execute it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Really
Yeah.
cool.
And
Love it.
it's very rare that someone doesn't have a wrestling story, no matter what time frame it is. And whenever they tell that story, it's
light up.
usually ear to ear. You know, whether they ran into someone at an airport, whatever it is. So we're doing our jobs. if
Well,
that's
but
the
then
Well
for
done.
everybody else to buy into it.
Yeah.
Also, and that, so congratulations for that.
And
because
worldwide. That's cool,
globally,
right?
yeah, that's
Yeah.
awesome. Okay, you know what else
Thank
I
you.
heard? Wait. You know what else I
What?
heard?
Okay.
Oh, she's
This
taking
was good. I can't read my writing, but I did write something down. Yesterday, and I don't think you were here for the beginning, but our leadership panel, which was awesome with those women,
Yeah.
just talked about a ton of things, but in particular, just listening, listening to
Yeah.
your people, and you have obviously listened.
It's so important.
And then to tell people, no, they're the women are superstars too. You're
Yeah.
listening to what
That's
they're saying,
right.
not just the men. But to me, those little things go such a long way, and it kind of fits in with what we're talking about here. Yes.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. We
okay,
need
I'm
to
done. I
listen
could talk all day.
listen
Thank you.
more. Right.
Thank you.
Sage.
Thank you.
Great job.
Oh, by the way, you can. I promise. I'm done.
Okay.
Last year, I think it was Robin Roberts. Didn't Robin say, "No is a complete sentence"?
Yeah.
It's so difficult.
Yep.
And did we hear it again this year too? Like I have remembered it, and
Right.
look, I love. Thank you for being vulnerable and admitting
Yep.
that you're as messed up as I am. Basically,
Oh,
I'm
probably
kidding.
more so.
I'm kidding. No,
Probably
but
more
just,
so.
it is so difficult to say no and to just shut up. But #goals, right? Like,
Yeah.
Let's work on that for next year. Okay, I'm done.